So today we see situations in the industry where people are looking to simplify their communications, looking to reduce the friction that comes about from complex communications, either between them and their customers or internally in terms of operational efficiencies. So for example, if I send out a very complex compliance notice to a customer, that will likely not get good uptake, and I may need to chase them and my call center load will increase. So what enterprises are doing is that they're typically trying to educate their own employees as to how to communicate clearly. Sometimes this is called a plain language program or a clear English program. And they will normally bring in some consultants. If I'm an employee, I go off on a 2-day course. I try and understand what the benefits are. And then what typically ends up happening is that it all fails. And the reason it fails is that people internally are going back and actually reverting to form. In other words, they're doing what they did before. So the approach is costly, it's wasting a lot of time, and it tends to not work very well. So what in effective organizations, what people are doing or what the executives are doing is that they're actually taking a slightly different approach. They're looking at it from a people, process, and tooling standpoint. So yes, they're bringing in trainers to help educate and understand or help their people understand the value of clear communications. But then they're also looking at their process. They're looking at what step of what I do on a day-to-day basis I need to do a better job and where this applies. So for instance, if I send or write that audit letter to a customer, that's the point in which I need to improve. And the third and final piece that they're doing is actually deploying tooling to score and measure the clarity of the content. And that tooling is really important. It's important to have the right type of tooling. You need a tooling that will help or allow the person score their own content themselves, score every paragraph within a letter, for instance, themselves, and score it using objective metrics. Typically something like grade level is a very, very useful indicator to allow you get an understanding of whether something is too complex or not clear enough. And the final piece of that enterprises that are progressive are doing is that they're actually monitoring all of this scoring. So if you equip hundreds, if not thousands of people with tooling and they're self-scoring, you also need to get a enterprise report that shows you how each team is doing on that scoring. So to summarize, enterprises that are doing this really well are not just sending people off for training sessions, which typically end up in failure. They're thinking about it more holistically. They're looking at the people element. Yes, the training is important. They're looking at it from the process standpoint. Which steps in my process I need to optimize? And third and final thing, how do I trust but verify? How do I make sure that the content that is going out is clear, single tone of voice, accessible, understandable? And that's the tooling piece.